Welcome back. In the last episode, Ryan scraped, angle grinded and sanded the copper coat off Skua's bottom. Then he filled the low spots with primer and filler before sanding the bottom again to make it extra smooth.
Because the sanding exposed some of the gel coat, which you can see in red, and I've used filler, which needs primer over it, I'm going to epoxy prime the hull. It's a good thing to do to protect it from osmosis a bit as well. But it's not like a full osmosis treatment because I haven't got any osmosis on the boat. But it should also give like a nice smooth finish for anti-fouling, and it should be quite a hard finish so that when we come to scrape off the anti-fouling in the future, it should leave a nice surface underneath, I hope.
While waiting for more primer to arrive in the mail to do the subsequent coats, Ryan drilled a new through hole to finish off our watermaker installation. Being an old boat, Skua has a very thick fiberglass hull layup, so it took a lot of drilling to make the hole. To make it easier for the hole saw, Ryan used a small standard drill bit to do most of the work.
So part of installing the watermaker is to install this scoop through hole forward facing, and then that means that when you're going through the water it kind of catches the water and pushes it inside, which adds to the pressure, whereas if you have a standard through hole like this is the one we're using at the moment, and as the boat's going through the water's kind of being drawn away from it, so it has to overcome that additional pressure to suck the water up through here and into the watermaker. So that's what I've just been doing. This is where we're installing it. It's as low down as we can really get to in an accessible spot. So hopefully it's low enough, but I mean if it's really, really rolly or we're crazy heeled over, then we probably wouldn't be running the watermaker anyway. So this is how it's going to be. It seems to already sit fairly flush to the hull. There's no big gaps around it, so I might just go ahead and seal that up. I need to make a backing plate for the inside bit, which I'll probably do out of a piece of HDPE, the chopping board, plastic basically, and then that'll be there. Through the hull will be up against there with some sealant around there, and then the hull, then the chopping board, and then the washer, then the nut.
We use butyl tape to seal the through hole to the hull and to seal the backing plate against the inside of the hull.
Most of the hull has now had 3 coats of epoxy primer, so it's time to put the anti-fouling on. We're using a conventional anti-fouling because of the difficulties of getting copper coat to stick to the boat. I think it's a great idea, copper coat, and I think it is a really good product if it works on your boat, but for us the risk is just too much that it doesn't stick and then you have to grind it all off, which as we've seen is a massive pain. So we're going to go with conventional anti-fouling. It should also be hopefully more powerful for the warm waters of the Caribbean, which is quite a high fouling area. So I'm going to put on 2 to 3 coats of conventional anti-fouling, probably 3 coats around the waterline where we clean it more, and 2 coats everywhere else, but we'll see how far we can get the anti-fouling to go.
In the next 2 days, Ryan applied a second and third coat of anti-fouling to the bottom. When the bottom was dry, we asked the yard workers to move the wooden stands so that we could work on the bits that were blocked by them. And just like that, Skua finally has a smooth, newly anti-fouled bottom. It was a lot of work. To make it harder for barnacles to stick to the propeller, Ryan polished it up as best as he could using special polishing discs on the angle grinder.
One of the things we wanted to do before we went to the Caribbean was to upgrade our anchor chain. The chain we've been using on Skua is only about 28 meters, which has worked okay, but really we'd like to be able to put out more scope. We found it quite restrictive particularly in Greece, where the anchorages are a bit deeper. We wanted to be able to anchor in sort of 10 meters really with a scope of 1 in 5, so that's why I went with 50 meters. We've also got a length of anchor plat rope which we use to extend that, but obviously that never touches the bottom, that's only in the water. So the total combined length is about 70 meters, which I think that should be fine for us. We're not sponsored in any way by them, but we are going to try out this 10mm Lofrans chain. We spoke to someone else who had it and they said that the galvanizing was lasting reasonably well. That's the main thing we worry about with chain, like mostly it's easily strong enough to hold the boat. It's just that galvanizing wears off quickly, especially when you're anchoring as much as we tend to. So yeah, we're going to mark it up at 10-meter lengths and put it on board. 10 meters, dead in the middle.
We decided to mark the new chain to make it easy to gauge how many meters we put out when anchoring. Then Ryan spliced the anchor plat onto the chain so that it would pass through the hole in the deck easily. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, you can support our production on Patreon or buy us a beer via PayPal. Join us next time as we keep preparing Skua to cross the Atlantic, installing new chain plates and doing a complete re-rig DIY.